yesterday. We just got paid yesterday, and I don't seem to know where things are going. So I say, take this, use your own lens, and apply it the best way you can if you want for yourself. Because in the end, that's what it's about. It's not about what your sibling does or your mother does or your best friend does or all the people on social media. It's what may or may not be able to work for you. So our objectives today is to talk about why budget. If we're going to budget, what types of systems work for you? Really understanding also what's the difference between bills and expenses, and truly answering the question, where is our money going? Hopefully you'll be able to create a savings goal. Most of us probably have a savings goal. And the whole point of having a savings goal is, if you watch Survivor, it's always expect the unexpected. Something is going to happen. Car's going to break down. You need can someone give me some of those unexpected things that we know are going to happen? What? Give me some examples.
Maybe you get hurt at work, so loss of income.
Perfect, Sharon. What else?
Furnace goes down, or some appliance that you have that you need.
Exactly. And maybe it's not a $1,000 bill, but maybe your child comes home and says, I need a new outfit, or I need a specific pair of shoes, right, for basketball or for school. It doesn't have to be something extravagantly expensive. It's just something that was not part of your normal financial plans. So creating savings goals is to help address those unexpected, last minute or emergency situations. And then we'll briefly talk about savings. Do we save any additional money that we have, or do you use it to pay down your debt? Sinking funds and cash envelopes is truly my favorite part of budgeting. So I'm looking forward to sharing that and seeing if there's anyone. Did I see Miss Ramsey wave? Is she waving at the camera? Seeing if there's anyone else that does that. And most importantly, is hoping that you have the encouragement and that you're able to, include your family or significant other ones, or significant others or co-workers, or even if you're just doing it by yourself, knowing that you keep going. When you start, however you start, that's half the battle. It's just starting. So why is budgeting important? It helps you create some sense of financial stability. If you're tracking and your expenses and following a plan, a budget makes it so much easier to pay the bills on time. It also helps you see where some of the issues are. And we're going to do that in a couple activities. And also, if it's part of your plan, you're helping to build an emergency fund and save for major expenses. Overall, as it states, a budget puts a person, meaning you and me, on a stronger financial footing for both the day-to-day expenses and long-term. This is not about how much money you make versus the next person, because as I mentioned, your finances are your finances. So how do you navigate and work with the finances that come into your household? What's also interesting about budgeting is finding ways to save money. I know Sharon Henry's on here. I am really bad at quoting books, scriptures, passages, but I think it might be something like, you rob Peter to pay who? Anybody?
You rob Peter to pay Paul.
You rob Peter, exactly. So you do that. I think we got a good understanding who Peter is and who Paul is when it comes to finances. But in this case, when you're budgeting and you're documenting and you're tracking, you find ways to save money and also maybe ways to reduce your overall spending in those areas that maybe once before you didn't even know were problem areas. Of course, if you're budgeting and if you have a team approach or a family approach, your fights, arguments, disagreements can decrease, because if everybody is working towards a common goal, then the conversations can be a little bit lighter or more joyful. Hopefully, if you have a budget, then you've identified then what's important for you and your family. What are you working towards? Does everyone know what your goals are? If you're doing it on your own, what are your goals? And in the end, like I said, what value am I passing down to my kid? What values have I identified in my household when it comes to our finances? A lot of people talk about generational wealth, right? Has anyone heard of generational wealth? We want to pass it down. We want to pass it down. I had a conversation with my niece about it the other day. She's 27 years old. She's an entrepreneur. And like I said, I am not an expert, but she uses that language all the time. And she told me what it meant to her. She wants to pass down finances and actual money and dollars down to her kids, which I thought was wonderful. She's having that conversation, something that I didn't have. But I said, so besides your individual businesses, what else does this mean for you? What is your plan? And I was shocked she could speak it, which was a great thing, but she had no visual for herself. She wasn't starting with the literacy part of it, meaning truly understanding where her finances are coming from, what her savings plans were. So I was happy that the thought and the goal is she wants to have generational wealth. She wants to pass that down. And so all I can encourage her to do is I said, well, so what's your plan to get there? And she's like, TT, that just wasn't something I was thinking about. So even in that conversation, I felt better. And I think she felt better because the conversation said, you know what, we're missing something here. And for her it wasn't written down. So avoid spending money you don't have. And it's funny too, well, how do you spend money that you don't have? Well, if you're in debt, which most of us are in debt, and we know that there's good debt versus bad debt, that you're spending money that maybe was earmarked for something else. And I won't get into all, what's right, or, we all help friends, family, or whatnot. But I always tell people, it's okay for us to, at least for me, it's okay for me to say no if I can't help someone out, if I know if it's a detriment to my own household. In our efforts to help people, right, sometimes we end up being harmed in a financial matter. I watch Judge Judy on a regular basis. As you can see, I watch a lot of TV. I watch Judy on a regular basis. And then one of the top 5 things besides people who don't pay their rent, car accidents, dog bites, cell phone usage or bills, it's lending money. It is lending money that people thought they had because they thought people would pay them back. And in the end, it became more of a problem area, especially, on credit cards and not paying something back, and interest rates and, harmful credit reporting. That's all part of someone's financial well-being, all to try to help someone else. But in the end, they ended up being harmed. So in the end, you have to make the decisions about if you also have debt, how will you manage that debt? What's a priority? Is it addressing those matters that are much larger amounts or the smaller amounts? So before we get to example budgeting systems, if people want to come off of mute. Is there anyone right now that would like to share with the rest of the group anything they do that they find helps them when it comes to budgeting? Doesn't have to be a formal system. It could just be anything regarding budgeting. Does anybody have anything they would like to share?
I think for me, one of the challenges that we had at one time was about saving $5 bills. I never really thought that that was a lot of money, but when you get change and you use the $5, and I ended up, I think it was like maybe a month and a half, 2 months that we saved. And when I got done, I was at almost $300 without even, I was at almost $300 just putting away those $5 bills. And it truly was just like change. When people gave me change back and it was a $5 bill, I would put that up. Or if people gave me money and it was fives, I would put that up. And I started to save, and now I've got a significant savings. We're going to do something this summer. So monies that you may not think a little bit helps, but a little bit can give you a nice nest egg.
Thank you for sharing. I see Miss Morgan has her hand up.
What really helps us is to just pick an amount to pull out of our checks, no matter what, through cash, and then put it somewhere so that we don't visually see it on our phones. I think we've saved maybe a little over 200 this past month just doing it that way, so that it's not something you can visually see. It's kind of like tricking us into saving money instead of, I can see I have 400 in my account, but how much is in my savings account? We don't know that until the end of the month when we look through it again.
Awesome. Thank you. Anyone else like to share what works for them? I can only see 5 people. I'll wait a couple seconds just in case. Okay, maybe later you might want to share if you feel the urge to. Great. But thank you two ladies for sharing. So if you ever look up formal budgeting systems in, your personal finances, there's several of them. But what we tend to hear most are about between 4 to 7 popular ones. So today we're just only going to review 4 of them. And these 3 are probably the most popular. One is pay yourself first. I have an aunt who lives by this premise. It works for her and her family. And with this budgeting approach, she already has. She knows her money is already targeted. She knows where her money is going. So all the cash enveloping and these percentages, that this style does not, those styles don't work with her. And as it states, with this plan, the method is you don't have to keep track of exactly where your money goes. It's not that important to her because she's financially able to be in a place where her bills are paid and she's still able to save some. I wish, most of us probably wish that we were in that spot. Most of us probably find ourselves in that spot, not realizing that that's what we're doing. We might be paying ourselves first, but not necessarily following the steps, right? This is where robbing Peter and paying Paul come into effect. We are paying ourselves first, but not necessarily making sure that all of our bills and all of our responsibilities are taken care of, which means, I'd rather go shopping and buy, my new pair of shoes, and I will figure out later that pair of shoes costing $100, but I know I have an electric bill that's due next week too. That's $100. So I'll worry about that later. Paying yourself first, fully executed, is you don't have to worry about how something is going to get paid because you already know it's being paid. You have money left over. Has anyone heard about paying yourself first? Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So Lynn, let's go to zero-based budgeting. Zero-based budgeting means every dollar, every cent that comes into your household is charged to something, and people do it. This is a very popular system. And when I say that there's no money left over, that means is because every dollar has been assigned. It doesn't necessarily mean it's the cash envelope system that I love so much, but it does mean that there are plenty of categories. Someone has their categories already listed, and they know on a regular basis, they're consistent. My money this month is $1,000, and that $1,000 is accounted for, but it's also including savings as well. So your expenses are going to equal your monthly income, but this also includes a savings component. The third approach is the 50-30-20. And I had an old boss who used to live by this principle, and I had no idea what she was talking about. So not until I started getting into the budgeting systems, and I go, oh my gosh, this is what she would tell me when she was telling me how much her mortgage was, that she would make sure that none of her necessities were more than 50%. I just didn't understand it. I wasn't asking because she was providing personal information, but this is the breakdown: 50-30-20. It adds up to 100% of your income. And if you're using these percentages, it includes a savings component, which is the smallest portion, a lifestyle component, which you identify for yourself. What is lifestyle? What does that mean? And guess what? If we've got 30 people on this Zoom, more than likely 30 of us will have a different understanding of what lifestyle represents and necessities represent. And the fourth system that we'll talk about in a little bit later is the cash envelope system. But feel free to look and review and examine, and some of you may use a little bit of any of these. We talked a little bit about pay yourself. Is anyone here do zero-based budgeting or the 50-30-20 budgeting? Does anybody know anyone who knows anyone who uses those?
I think I feel like I do the pay yourself budgeting because I like write the dates of like when bills or anything is due. So I pay all that, and then whatever is left over, I just kind of put it to the side.
Put it to the side. Awesome. And that's just it. In the end, it's whatever works. And you probably realize, I didn't even know this had a name for it. I had no idea. You do what works for you. Thank you for sharing. So now we're going to go into a little activity, but the conversation is truly understanding the difference between your bills and your expenses. And in the end, we say they could be joined together. Look, these are all the things that I have to pay. But the idea behind it is truly understanding what your absolute required obligations are in your household versus an expense. If I went to McDonald's this morning and got me an iced coffee, that's not a bill, right? That's an expense. So when we start the whole process of where do I go, what do I do, the industry automatically tells everybody, you need to start with your bank statements. Whether you get them electronically or whether you get them mailed to you, like I mentioned to people before, this was a shocker to me. And part of the reason why is because if you were like me and you have a debit card, our middle names were just swipe, 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 swipe. And all of those swipes add up. And I remember sharing with someone, okay, when I started this and I got my statements and I'm taking out my highlighters because I'm trying to, categorize and classify where the expenses are. You're never surprised with those items that are your fixed expenses. You're not normally surprised about your rent, and your mortgage, your, well, your electric and gas can change, but you're not surprised because you know that those are coming out. The surprise elements are all the things we swipe. So we have to look at your expenses to categorize them and write them down. And in the research and all of these, regardless of what category or how or what system people will check, all of them say, all of the researchers, all of the experts, all of the moms and dads at home say, you have to look at your expenses. So you can have those aha moments of, oh my goodness, I didn't realize where all of my money was going. Oh my goodness, I didn't realize, that I was at Burger King as often as I was. So take those statements, review them, classify them, make notes for yourself to say, oh, where do I need to make some changes? So we're going to do an activity. And just remember, I believe all of the books have come in today, all of our budgeting books. So we'll get those out as soon as we possibly can. And as I mentioned, they come with some stickers as well. But here's the most important thing. Remember, we said, make sure you get that pen and piece of paper out. So here we go. So here's some things that I want you to think of initially. I want you to take a few seconds, and for you, I want you to write down what your bills are. So just quickly, just write down, list what your bills are. Right? It should come to you pretty quickly, pretty natural, because these are your automatics. If you would like to put in the chat or get off the microphone and tell me if you would like what some of your bills are. We already know for the most part, rent or mortgage or car payment, right? Those seem to be the top ones. They take up all of our money. What are some other bills that you have or other people might have?
Cell phone bills.
Okay, thank you.
Insurance,
Insurance,
electric, gas,
electric, gas.
electric.
So what
and-
I'm sorry. So this is what I'm going to do as much as I can, because most of us can relate, but anytime someone writes something down, it tends to, once you go back and review it, your list is going to grow. So the first thing I think someone said was cell phone, correct?
In the
Yes.
chat, Stephanie, is insurance, water, internet, and cell phone.
Okay. So let's take these: cell phone, insurance, internet. All makes sense. Most of us have that. So then I want you to break it down. Is it your car insurance? Is it your health insurance? Is it your pet insurance? Is it your house insurance? You following where I'm going with this? Your list starts with 10 things, 8 things, 4 things, whatever it is, and it will double and triple once you re-review and once you start comparing it to your statements. So someone mentioned internet. Okay. Does the internet include Hulu? Does the internet include the Roku? Does the internet include all the additional charges for the additional movies that your kids or you or I may? You following where I'm going? Give me another bill. Now
Gas.
we got some more bills.
In the chat, it says gas,
Oh, I
Credit
don't see
cards.
anything. It says what?
gas, credit cards.
So let's do gas and credit card. And you're gonna see where I'm gonna go from this. So your gas, most of us go on an estimation of how much our gas is going to cost for us. So people naturally think it's a bill, but it's an expense. And that's how we want to see. A bill is an automatic. And then you might say, well, gas is automatic too, right? But if your gas amount fluctuates, then it's not a fixed expense, it's a variable expense. So you want to make sure you realize, unless you automatically put $50 in your car every week, no matter what, then of course, then you can make that your bill. But if it fluctuates, then that means your overall spending and your overall budget fluctuates.
That's
So
what I
now
said,
that-
gas for your home.
I can't hear. Did someone say something?
Oh.
I thought I heard something.
Sherry, say that again, please.
Gas for your home?
Gas for your home. It's a bill, right? But it fluctuates unless you might be on a certain program where you're paying the same amount. And utilities, especially, I can only speak for myself, but my utilities during November, December, January, and February are nowhere near the same as they are through the summer months. We know that. My water bill is not the same as it is in the summer. So when you're planning and you're looking at these expenses, some of them are not even every month. Some of them are quarterly. Does anyone have a quarterly bill or a bi-monthly bill? Anybody? Okay, let's look at a couple more bills. Give me a couple more examples of your bills.
What about insurance?
I think someone mentioned your insurance, and that's why I say you got to break it down. Is it your health insurance, car insurance, house insurance?
Life
whatever the case may
insurance.
be. Life insurance, absolutely. So just a couple other things off the top of my head.
Stephanie, someone
Land
said land taxes.
Absolutely. You know, some of us may have it where it's incorporated in our mortgage payment. Some people pay it quarterly. A lot of people pay it, every 6 months. So you got to put it in there. I think if you live in Lorraine, our garbage bill, they changed that many years ago. So now we pay it every month, but before we paid it quarterly. So depending on where you live, that's my point. What about, so believe me when I say, once you go back and you start looking at your credit card or your banking expenses, you're going to have a lot more than what was, mentioned here. How many people are paying that extra $1.99 a month for cell phone? Someone mentioned cell phone. That's why I wanted for your cell phone space. Is it the iCloud or something like that? You may not think it adds up, but it does. $2 here, $2 here, $2. It all adds up. So just think, you got a Y membership. So let's go to the expenses. The expenses is where our focus should be. Why? I already sort of mentioned it. They sort of fluctuate. They fluctuate. And your expenses, oh, we can be here all day. People tell me some expenses that are not your bills, meaning not your fixed expenses.
In the chat, it says groceries.
Groceries. What else?
They also say eating out.
Eating out. Okay. How many people get their hair done? How many people take the dog to the groomers? How many people are part of a club? What about your Meg?
There's a parent that says Disney Plus and Hulu.
There you go. Disney Plus and Hulu. How many other subscriptions, whether it's your magazine subscriptions, whether paper subscriptions, you know, whether you are do you have a membership to a sorority or fraternity or to a book club, your expenses is where change can be made. Okay. Okay. So next to where you put fixed expenses, I want you to draw a line if you can. And next to it, now put variable or just put expenses. So before was your bills. Now I want you to put your expenses. Now I want you to relook at what you initially said, relook at what is in the chat room. Now that you're probably thinking about things, now I want you to list your expenses. This is not for you to get it all written down here. It's just for you to start. I'm trying to see a couple things that I've got to delete.
Subsidizing grandchildren.
Absolutely.
That's cute.
Not just the grandchildren, the adult children as well. Okay. So did everyone add some things to their expense column? And here's where the nitty gritty comes, is when you start plugging in the amounts. That's when it's gonna really, like I said, the two, maybe not for you, but the two aha moments for me, it was reviewing my bank statements. The second aha moment was actually writing them down and actually writing down how much my actual fixed expenses were. They weren't surprising. But when we went to those variable expenses, oh my goodness. So when you mentioned, someone mentioned groceries, and when someone mentioned eating out, entertainment, getting your hair done, nails done, and the list goes on and on and on. Then I got to realize, well, maybe that's why I haven't paid off this bill. Maybe that's the reason why I'm paying Peter to pay Paul. It's what I'm doing over here in the expense column. So I'm going to go back up here, and because when I started doing this, I started using my own expenses, and I go, I can't do that. I can't check that. All right. So just give you an idea of what we just did, was asking ourselves, where was our money going? Plan and review. I already mentioned before, if you have them in the two categories, most of the time your expenses or your bills are not going to fluctuate that much, right? But I think I put something in the wrong category. But I want you to look at this list. Look at this list. What can you adjust? And it's going to be different for everybody. Take an idea, and this may not be, obviously not everything, but you need to make sure you understand what the difference is between, I'm going to keep repeating it, a regular fixed amount and your miscellaneous spending. So based off this list, can someone tell me what 3 miscellaneous spending categories are? Anybody?
So I would say streaming services, the holidays, entertainment.
Thank you. And but you know why someone might disagree with you, Maria, on streaming services? They might
Because
say, if I'm not paying it, if I don't have it, I can't watch TV. That's the whole point. someone else may see it, this isn't miscellaneous spending. This is a have to. I have to have my streaming services, because maybe some people don't have cable and maybe they only have, was it Hulu and Freebie, and I don't know, my mom has different stations than I have. So that's part of their normal monthly, expenditures. Where do you think, based on this list, our savings can come from?
Adiós, mami, te amo, te veo ahorita.
Where can our savings come from? Look at your variable expense list. Remember that column that you wrote down? What do you have in that category?
Could come from your entertainment or from your beauty, maybe cut back.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, food and groceries, many people put them together, but you might have to break it out. Someone said groceries and someone else said eating out. Eating out has always been a large expense in our household. And then we had to reduce it after I said, oh no, oh, absolutely not. And guess what? I went to McDonald's last week. I got some cookies. I got a new sandwich. And when they gave me the price, the lady told me it was $12 and something cents. I almost jumped out the car. I was like, no, you got the wrong person. I didn't order much of anything. She said, well, our prices went up last night. So she said, your Coke and your tea that you normally pay $1 for is now, I think she said $1.49. Does everyone know that? So be aware. So be aware your fast food, and why should we be surprised? Everything else has increased, so why not, fast food? So if I'm looking at, so I'm going to go to my picture. Why can't I? Let's see. Luna, that's her name. Can everybody see the Stefanie Drew box? Can you see it okay? You, if you can, you want to go in the box where you see the 3 dots and pin me. That way you can have a larger screen. Can you see me or see the paper? So part of this is just one that was easy for me to print off, just giving people an idea. So this is a monthly budget plan. And when I was drafting it up, I always said that the most important thing is seeing numbers and writing it down. You can see that I wrote this for December, correct? But actually, in order for you to budget for December, you need to know all of your expenses for November as well. You have to look back at least 1 month to know where you stand for the current month. And we've talked about a goal. So if my goal this month is to save $100 and I haven't had any luck saving $100, I've got to look at my expenses.
Stefanie,
yes.
There's people in the chat asking if you're sharing your screen. They don't know how to see that.
Do you see in your corner of the box, you might see something that says mute, and then there should be 3 little dots or something. If you hover in your box, it should say pin me.
Where Stefanie's picture is, or should be.
His picture is, if you go in that square and you click on it, it'll say pin me. And if you push the pin, it'll bring up the budget plan, where it'll bring up her box so you can see it bigger.
Is there anyone that's working for?
Another way is if you change your view to speaker view, you'll be able to see it as well.
Thank you. So the most important thing when you actually go to the documentation is to figure out what month you're working on and what is your budget goal for that month. So here I have, I'm gonna say my goal is to save $100. I didn't have a second goal because you know what? Saving $100 is all the goal that I need. Then I'm gonna list all of my income sources. So go back to your piece of paper and somewhere on there, just write income. Write down your income sources. I'm not even saying write down the amount yet, but of course that will always be part 2. What is your income source? Once you've got that down, this is your employment, but let's not forget all funds, all finances that come into your house. Is it Social Security? See how the list expands? Is it child support? Does someone owe you from a back loan? What else could be an income source? Anybody have any ideas? Or does anyone actually have one that I haven't listed?
Maybe if they get food stamps, that could be an income source. I mean, it's not money,
It could
but it's
be.
a way that
Well,
they
it could be. I mean, it could be. What else? Anything else? What about people who barter their services? Or what about people who sell things? What about those of you who have a side business? What about if you babysit for someone? You see how the list expands? It may not be where everyone has something extra, but if you sell coquito for the holidays, if you're selling wreaths, if you do hair, you're shoveling snow, that is source of income. That is money coming into your household. It may not be the same every month, but you should definitely take that into consideration. I'm not here to preach, or something over here I had written down was crafts, or if you have a side business. We all believe that our crafts and our side business help us, right, positively in our financial planning in our home. But what I know, because that's why I don't tend to sell things, I tend to make things, but making things isn't free. Crafting isn't free. Baking isn't free. There's a cost to your utilities. Oh, I just need to go buy more foil. Oh, I need to go buy more cupcake holders. Oh, I just got to go out and buy sugar and flour and cream and vanilla. You following what I'm saying? That are not going to your regular, normal food budget expenses. Oh, but Hobby Lobby's having a sale on their ribbon. And before you know it, because it's on sale, you spent $50 this month on ribbon and you're struggling, to pay Paul, or you don't have anything to go into the savings. So when you do things like that, when you're using your creative sources, just think about how that plays a positive or a negative, because not everybody makes a profit off of all the things that they make and bake and do for other people. So just take that into consideration. So whatever your income sources are, they are. And then we're going to look for where we can save. So if I've gotten them listed, and these were just examples, like you already did, we listed all of the fixed expenses, right? And over here on the right-hand side, can you see, I only did 3 variable expenses: groceries, eating out, and entertainment. If you've looked at this budget and you see that I want to save $100, if this is all I have, can I do that?
Not without knowing what your income is.
Exactly. So I've got to go in here and put in my income. And I always encourage people to know exactly what they're expected to make and bring home, and know what they're supposed to bring after taxes. So let's just say my first check is $1,200. And let's say my second check is $1,000. So my total income, if I go to the bottom, is going to be $2,200. I'm sorry. So based on the math, do you see any issues? So let me help a little bit. So over here, I budgeted, I'm starting on the right, my variable expenses that I budgeted for are $700, right? My actual were $1,100. If I go over here, my fixed expenses, so if we do the math right quick, can someone help me out? I got 1,000, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I think that comes to 1,532. You with me so far? And if you don't like math, then budgeting is probably not going to be, looking at the numbers isn't going to help things. So if my total debt now is, and in the fixed column, it's 1,532. My total debt this month and the variable was what? 1,100? Is that what I said? It's $1,100. My total debt is 2,632. Did you see that? So am I able to save $100 this month? So what do I have to do? And my guess is all of us have been here. We have spent more than what we have brought in. So something's not getting paid. It's just that simple, or something is not being purchased. So briefly, how do you think? You already see now, if my overall expenses, I'm overspent by, how much am I overspent by? I'm overspent by $432. Can you see that? I'm over. You couldn't see that. I'm over by $432. So if it was you, based on what you see, what are you changing? What do you recommend that I change? I'm open for suggestions.
You could
Can't go
take it,
out.
you could take it out of eating out, but I think if you do that, then you also might have more in groceries.
Okay, so let's go
Potentially.
back up to eating out. I budgeted 300, right? I budgeted $300 for a reason. I overspent by $200. So if I'm listening to Miss Diana, it's no one saying that I have to stop eating out, but maybe I just need to stick to my original goal, right?
Yes,
What do you think?
yes.
Thank you. So, okay, so now I found $200. I'm looking, where can I find money? I need to find where I may not be able to get to my goal, but how can I help get there? What else can I do? Based on what you see here.
You might want to check your YMCA. It's going down. I can barely see that. It was the Y
Okay.
something.
Uh-huh.
You might want to check that to see whether or not you can, what do you call it? Not use it for a couple of months, or I don't know the term because I don't do the YMCA
Gotcha.
or those things, but it might be a thing where you can like not go for 3 months or something like
Good.
that.
This is family plan. That actually is true, am I? But once I looked at that, I had a family plan. I had a lot of people on the family plan. I start thinking, how many years have I had this family plan? How many times have I gone? Stephanie, you've gone one time. How many times your kid gone? He only uses it when he's home from college. Your husband only uses it for a couple. And then I had my mom on it. Hey, guess what went? That $125. Thank you. So you helped me find $125. And you're right. If I or someone really in the family really needs, hopefully they can get a job in Avon that can help them reduce their overall cost to join the Y, or maybe they need to look for someplace else, or like you said, maybe it's only temporary. Maybe it's only during the winter months or something like that. But you just helped me find $125. So I'm minus 200 and I'm minus 125. So I'm at 325. I need about $100 more. Any ideas? Any thoughts?
Cut your grocery costs.
Well, what am I gonna do? I gotta eat. I
Yeah,
gotta
but
feed
stick
my
to your
family.
budget because you're actually
Yes.
spending more than your budget,
Well,
$200 more.
Do
Clip
some menu
coupon.
planning.
well,
Coupon.
coupon? Oh my goodness, yes. I
And
might
plan
want a
your meals.
coupon. Huh?
Plan your meals
Oh
so
my
that you're only
God,
buying
yes.
what you
I'm
need for
gonna,
those meals.
I'm gonna plan my meals. And you're absolutely right. Those of you who know me know that I coupon, and I'm better at planning my meals. But normally the last day or at least once a week, I mean, not once a week, but at least 1 week during the month, guess what I'm doing? We are planning based on what's in my house, what's in my freezer downstairs, what's in my pantry, right? It's called the pantry raid, pantry and freezer raid. And you're like, I didn't even know I had these cube steaks in here. I didn't even know I had this, using what's there. And I'm here, as you guys already know, convenience is not cheap. Convenience is not free. And there are days, right, all of us, we don't want to cook, we don't want to do that, and but you know what? Thank goodness for the air fryer, thank goodness for a working oven, thank goodness for a freezer, a pantry, thank goodness for meals and cheap meals, the cookbook that we normally give to our families. Thank goodness to Google and 5 ingredients or less. Yeah, maybe I don't want to cook every day, but then I have to think about, okay, Stefanie, what's going to bring me joy at the end of this month? When I see a negative in my account, or whether or not I'm going to see a positive number. And for me, it's a positive number, something that I can say. So you get the point. That's where we have to look. And even though I said most of our expenses and where we can save tend to be in the variable column, you clearly went right over here to our fixed expenses and found something that maybe is just not my priority. But when you looked at the rest of this, is there anything else that stands out? You have to question, need to question why did you budget a certain number and what happened in the actuals? Why did I budget $100 for my electric, but it was actually $125? Why did I budget $90 for cable when it's supposed to be a regular fixed expense and now it's $107? These are the things that are then meant for you to follow up on. Did you sign up for something that you realize you didn't sign up for? Did you throw away the junk mail without reading that there was going to be an increase, in your service? Did you not realize that maybe you had something that was available to you for 90 days as a free trial, and then after that, it was an automatic, fee? There are so many, I guarantee you, if you decide to sit down and list them, those variable expenses. Anybody here have a Ring security system or something like the Ring? Anybody? It doesn't cost a whole lot. The kids themselves may have a cost, but if you're paying for the motion detectors, what is it, like $3 a month? But that goes back to what I'm saying. If that's $3 a month and your Google increases $2 extra a month and your streaming fees continue to increase, you will never be able to explain away truly where all of your dollars or all of your funds will go. We're almost headed home. So quickly, should I pay down debt before saving? You are the only one who can answer that, and everyone has different opinions. There are people who feel that they should pay down the debt that has the largest interest rates, right? So say I've got $1,000 debt, but the interest rate is 25%. You do the math. It might take you 4 years. Let's just say it takes you 3 years to pay that off. And you might be okay with that. But maybe you have a smaller debt. Maybe it's the dentist, or maybe it's a credit card that's $200. Regardless of what it is, the interest rate might be the same or might be less. It truly is up to you. What is going to help you in your family? Someone might say, I want to pay down my credit card debt just in case there's an emergency. I want to pay that. I'm going to go ahead and pay that $1,000 other bill, but I need to pay down my credit card just in case I do have a financial emergency. And also because it may impact my credit. So it really is up to you. Do I pay off of something that has a larger, it might take a longer time to pay off? There's no right and wrong answer because everyone feels differently about that. It is up to you. What's most important is recognizing and writing down, knowing that you have that debt. In your the book that you're gonna get, I believe there might be a column for when you write down your expenses and write down your bills. It's also write down what you still totally owe. So if you have an electric bill, maybe you only have to pay $170 this month, but you still have an outstanding balance of $200. Or whatever it is, you should be writing down your not just what you need to pay or plan to pay, but truly what is that outstanding debt. So it's always a vision for you to figure out, how am I going to maneuver to pay it down? As long as it's in your forefront and it's part of your planning and part of your budget, it's not some secret quiet debt. You will work, it will be in your forefront and your thought process to how to tackle it. It may not get down to zero, but at least you're working on it. All right, so let's talk about we already talked about list upcoming expenses. Oh, let's talk about sinking funds. And this is where I said it's part of one of the systems, budgeting systems, and one that has worked for me. Sinking funds, it's about listing your expenses, which you've already done, right? So if we take this example, let's say this is all I got all these empty ones, sorry. But if these are my expenses, I'm sinking money, meaning this is a cash system. And a lot of people don't work with cash. A lot of people, most of you, like, I don't normally have much cash on me. And I was one of those people, but because I was a swiper. I am now in between. Why? Because I sink my funds, not 100%, but I sink funds and I'm an envelope system user. So what is it? What is it about sinking funds? It's making sure part of that whole system that we talked about earlier is making sure all of your money is accounted for. That's one thought process. Another process is thinking about those unexpected, or the things that you know are going to come up in 2 months and 3 months. As you have here, car repairs, vacation. Anyone planning on going on a vacation anytime soon or next year? So you planning on going on vacation? Anybody got a birthday they're going to celebrate? Or anyone got birthdays they need to buy for? People they got to buy for? Anyone going to a zoo? Anybody doing anything? You've got to fund, meaning you got to pay for it. If there's a cost to it, then you can plan for it. If you may not celebrate Christmas, you may not celebrate Thanksgiving. Most of us did, and most of us will. Was it free? Did it come at zero cost? No, that's my point. Nothing comes at zero cost. Well, most things don't come at zero cost. So the whole point of sinking funds is planning ahead, making your list of items, coming up with your categories, being thoughtful about what you want to do. So I'm going to encourage you all to come up with at least one, whatever it is. I think we've talked about a whole bunch of different categories today, but whatever that is, no matter the amount, you already know you have to plan for it. And that's what a sinking fund is all about, planning for that expense. So if it is now end of November and it's December, how do I come up? If I've come up with a topic, you have to ask yourself, how many months do I have to save until I need the funds? So if you're doing something in July, how many months from today is that you will need that money? About 8? I know we love doing math, right? So about 8 months, depending on when you need the money. So let's just go with 8 months. If the item is going to cost you, or if the event is going to cost you $500, how much money will you need to save in order to pay that expense come July? I just love math. Anybody? You said you're going on vacation. You said you got $500 that you got to save up by July. How much do you have to save starting in December to save that $500?
At least 62.50 a month.
Absolutely. So let's tell you how Maria got that. Maria took $500, subtracted it by 8 months. Correct, Maria? What'd you do?
I did division.
Maria took the $500. That's how much she knows she needs. Maria doesn't have $500 today, but her goal is to have $500 for whatever it is that she's saving for in July, which means she has to save, put aside $62.50 every month to reach that goal. Can Maria do it? How many of us think Maria can do it? I think she can. And how is she going to get there? Anybody? How's Maria going to get there?
I've got to look at my variable expenses and see where I can.
Yeah, you're just looking at everything that we just reviewed. And not everything has to be $500. Maybe it's $100. Maybe it's $200. Maybe it's a smaller amount. Maybe you've got, most parents, you got little ones. What's coming up? It's a little too, I don't want to say it's never too late. It's Christmas. But if we're starting next year, most of you are buying February Valentine's gifts, Valentine's stuff. Think about look at everything that's on the calendar. Where all those extra expenses come from? You can start planning for them now. Put $2 aside, put $1 aside, put $5 aside, if you can. That's how you sink funds. And then it's the envelope system. So most people sink funds by using the envelope approach. Not everybody, most people do, but there are people who do all of this electronically. There are people who love technology. They're budget masters. They use Excel. They use a system online. They use their phones. There's all kinds of apps. And instead of using cash, they transfer money into maybe a different account. They use the same principle, but at the end of the month, whatever it is that they may save, they just transfer it into a savings account, not a checkings account. And normally not a savings account that they have easy access to. I'm not telling you that's what you should or shouldn't do. I'm just saying that that's how people who use technology do it so that it's similar to a cash system. So this is the budget wallet system. And yes, I have a few of those. And on the bottom left, this is what the envelope system looks like. But I'm here to say when I started off, and for most people, that's what they use. They use a traditional envelope like this, and they write their categories. So if you're looking in my name box, you see I've made an envelope for each of those categories: entertainment, groceries, household, and gas. And so what do you think I will do with these envelopes? What's the whole point of sinking funds? If we're sinking funds, then what am I doing with these envelopes?
You're putting away money for those items. for
I'm putting
those-
the money that I budget, that we've already listed, and they're going into my envelopes. And I'm making a commitment to myself that this is all I'm spending, that pay period, that month on those items. And then it's up to you to decide, well, what if I don't spend $150 that I budgeted for gas? What if my household expenses are less than what I budgeted for? What if my groceries is less than what I budgeted for? Then the whole point of that is to save. Those dollars or use to pay down your debt, or you can keep it in the same envelope for something that is more priority or that increases your same allotment for next month. It is up to you. So you'll be getting those, one of those, and this is just a live version of what in the bottom left. So like, this is my upcoming bill envelope. Can you see that? And it's just simple. It's, people make these themselves too, but there is nothing wrong with using a regular envelope system. And then as we finish up, before we get to challenges, here's another version. So if you look at this, when we talk about cash envelope stuffing, if you're using regular envelopes or if you have a binder, it's also tracking. I don't know if you can see that. It's about listing what you're saving for. And this is actually one of my newer ones because I have a husband who's now recently retired, and to be transparent, the whole medical insurance matter has not been resolved just yet. And because he also has, I think it's like a health savings account. So that means I've got to make sure I come out of pocket, we come out of pocket to pay down medical expenses. So I said, I better jump on that. Do I have something else that could help cover? Yeah, but I know that through the year, his premiums, his bills, they're going to be more consistent. So I just started that, and you can see the dates that I listed, how much I added to it, and where my total is. And this just helps me track. So anytime I remove something from any of my categories, it's just very apparent to me where my funds are going. And that's what's most important. Having my husband participate, he doesn't do what I do, but he's on board with what I'm doing. So it is a joint effort. I ask him, now moving to the challenges, Sharon talked about the $5 bill challenge. You know, we've been doing this for several years now, and it is something that works for us. If you go online, there are all kinds of challenges, and people are charging things to create challenges. You can create your own challenge. My favorites are the change challenge, just whatever change you collect, save, find in your car, in your couch, you put it aside. It's up to you to decide what you're going to do with it. In our household, we always save our change for road trips. We cash it in, and know now I think it's up to 13% to cash in your change at the local Apples. So be prepared. You're thinking you're getting 150 and you're getting 82 bucks. So whatever challenge, this is an example of a Christmas challenge. I didn't include it, I think, in this, in the printout, I'm sorry, in the attachment. So I'll just briefly show you if anybody wants any of these. And yes, I did pay for these. There's a me, myself, and I challenge. And the whole part of this, and this individual that I support, if you can see it, is it tells you, you can see their section. So if you like the color, it just allows you to have a little bit fun in what you're doing. You identify how much each section is going to be worth. Maybe it's $1, maybe it's $2, maybe it's $10. Whatever it is, if you can see on the bottom, then you have your goal amount. You identify when your start date is, and you determine when you finish it, when your end date is going to be. That's called the Treat Yourself Challenge, me, myself, and I. Here's one, it says, where are we going? So if you got vacation plan, as you can see, this one is about going, having some fun in the sun. What's the start date? Every flip-flop is worth $20. Sunshine is worth $50. The little drinky drink is worth $40. So this is just an example of a couple different challenges. Some of my favorites is just a plain, simple savings tracker. What did you save each month? Is it $0? Is it $5? Is it $10? It's just giving people a visual to help you help yourself. This was my personal me, myself, and I challenge. You can see I started this last year on December 17th. I gave myself $5 for each section. I completed the challenge on October 1st. So I was happy to complete it. Now the question is, am I really going to use those funds for me? What do you think? I really want to, but I haven't, and that's okay. It's just the fact of whether I decide to use the funds to treat myself, to pay a bill, to save it, it's okay. It's the fact that I have it. So that challenge alone ended up being, how much did I say? $325. And that's an accomplishment because it could have been $325 going down the trash. So in the end, let's review. Create a system that works for you. Whatever works, then kudos. Have a savings goal. Try to include your family. And remember that plans are meant to be revised. Also remember that you may not start today. You may not start tomorrow. The book that you will be getting is undated. So it's going to work for you whenever it is you decide to start. Start small, start big, change it, reduce it, include others like I mentioned. Maybe it's the kids who are helping to save change. Maybe it's having a family a goal, that if you save a certain amount, what are you going to do? If the family has an identified goal, you're more likely as a family to work towards that goal. Have fun. The challenges, I love the challenges, but it's most important to challenge yourself. Those of you who've been with me for a while, I've challenged my teammates on more than one occasion, my workmates, my family members, my siblings, my nieces and nephews, because during COVID, guess what? Most of what we were doing was sitting at home and spending money. And I'm like, this is not the way we got ourselves in a bad trap. So we changed it around to say, how can we save a little bit money? And it's been successful. I'll share one more last story with you, because now it's with my nephew. I remember sharing this with my nieces and nephews and say, let's have a challenge. I want there to be save your $5 bills. And I told them that whoever the winner was, that I was going to match it. But what they didn't know is that I said I was going to match whatever they saved, which I did. But I remember my nephew calling me and he said, Aunt Stephanie, he goes, I saved some money. I saved my $5 bills. I did it from January to May. And we were supposed to go to the end of June. He goes, but I had to use it because my car broke down or he needed some repairs. And he was upset by it. And I go, well, why are you upset? He goes, because I wanted to continue with the challenge and see where it got me. I go, but the competition is within yourself. It was no competition between the other siblings. And I go, in the end, you are the one who came out a winner, Abraham, because you actually had money to pay for the repair. When any other time he was calling his mom or his dad to help pay. And I go, that's the whole point of also being self-sufficient. You learned a system that works for you. So now 3.5 years later, what did I see my nephew post on Facebook the other day? How he was excited to start the new year and he was challenging his siblings to a $5 challenge. So I'm a proud TT. I'm a proud TT. So, you know, we all have a journey to take. And as I end this, the journey is ongoing, but it's so worth it. And that for me was a prime example of how budgeting and saving has been worth it for me and my family. So is there anything that anyone would like to share? Was there an aha moment? Is there anything that you think you might take away, or you just say, this just isn't for me? I know we all struggle in different things, but it can be done. Anybody?
Comments was that it was great and very helpful, Stephanie.
Oh, well, thank you.
Stephanie, one of the things I've done in the past is round my bills up. And doing that, I was able to pay my house off 2 months earlier. So,
Geez.
you know, a few cents here and there does add up.
It absolutely does. Is that Judy that's saying that? I don't see you, but I recognize the voice. That is awesome. And I'm not here to advocate for an app. I don't do this, but I know that there are people. I think there's an app called Roundup, Judy. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that or if anyone's familiar with that, but anytime you make a purchase or something like that with your debit card, it's supposed to go into a bank account. I just wasn't feeling. I don't know anyone personally does, but I know people use that. And that's a great way for them to say. Thank you, Judy, for sharing. Anybody else? Well, I hope that whatever your savings and goals or budgeting goals are with the holidays and the new year, like I said, in review, you know, our finances are ours. There can be challenging days, but when we're able to work through them, right, and we're able to see a savings, or we're able to put something aside, and when we don't have to rob Peter, you know, it can be a good day. So I thank you for joining us this morning. And if there's nothing else, then have a great day.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. I'll forward the chat to you. There's a lot of praise for the presentation. Thank you so much.
If anybody, you know what, if I was gonna say, if anyone wanted copies of the individual challenges, I can send those out. I don't want to send them or give them to you if you really don't want them. So if there was any of them, remember there was the me, myself, and I, there was just the glass jar one and the summer. Maybe I'll just send them out to everybody. How about that?
So if you'd like them, everyone should have signed in. So we'll make sure that you get it with your book. All right.